Hey man, welcome to the show. It's such an honor to have you here. So, can you do us the honor of introducing yourself, please?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. This
It's my
is my
pleasure.
first podcast. It's my first podcast of my
You will be
career. I've
great.
done. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Krupa, and I'm a forensic psychologist. I am in this field for the last 5 years. So yes, I during my podcast I let you know my journey.
Okay, please share. We'll be excited to hear.
Yes. I have done my PA psychology from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, and then
Yeah.
I did my masters in forensic psychology from Gujarat Forensic Sciences University. I post graduated in 2019 with a gold medal, and then I also got immediately recruited as an assistant professor for forensic psychology. So it's been around 5 years that I've been in this field, and I have got the experience of working with Crime Branch Ahmedabad, Forensic Science Lab, Science Hospital, prisons, and training as well as teaching and researching. So I've got a spectrum of experiences in all fields of forensic psychology with victims, suspects, criminals, prisoners, police, and lawyers. So yeah, that's my experience for you.
Wow. I would like to start by asking what is forensic psychology?
Yes. So I'll just break up the term for you. So
Yeah, sure.
forensics me it's in the Roman time the term was forensis. That means where the trials used to be conducted. So any field that joins with forensis means that the application of that field in that trial or justice. So we have forensic science. So scientific principles helping in the trial. We have forensic biology, so biology helping in justice. Similarly, forensic psychology means application of psychological principles in the field of law.
Right. Right.
Yes.
How exactly does a forensic psychologist help criminal investigators, the police, prosecution, etc., in winning a case?
Yeah. So we are not biased towards police or we're not biased towards
Right.
the lawyers. We are very neutral in our position. Our only aim is to investigate the crime. So I'll tell you from the very beginning how we help. So from the very beginning, we help the police in suspect interviewing. So we all are very aware that how police use third degree torture to extract any confession. But the forensic psychologists use psychological interviewing skills to extract that confession and help the police. So that is where we help. Then, if the police does not get any physical evidences like blood or DNA, so then you take help of forensic psychologists, and then they do polygraph, narco analysis, these lie detector machine, brain profiling to understand what or gain further evidences. So as a forensic psychologist you can work in a scientific as a scientific officer in a forensic lab and help in the criminal investigation, and then you can testify in the court whatever you have written, so you can become
Right.
like an expert witness over here. And also you can help in victim assistance. So for example, when a victim has come to you, if you want to reform or rehabilitate or reintegrate the person, then you can do victim assistance. You can also work in prison settings and counsel the prisoners over there. So right from suspects, victims and criminals, you can work in all these fields during the criminal investigation.
So,
Yeah.
so what are some of the techniques that forensic psychologists use to, I mean, I won't say extract a confession, but
Yeah.
let the suspect talk.
As you correctly said, we don't extract any confessions. We only help the police gain support or you can say gain supporting evidence to help them
Right.
understand what is their future evidence or gain support for their previous evidence. So this is known as corroborative evidence. So
Right.
or you can say secondary evidence. And for these we have 5 machines. The first is suspect detection system and layered voice analysis. These are known as screening tools. So if you know, sometimes if you are in a relationship with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you'll know that somebody who's lying will sweat a lot. Okay, so sweating is one of the best indicators for lying. So when in suspect detection system you use sweating, it's a 5 minute in automated instrument, and we use, so suppose you are in a rape case, you have 10 suspects and you want to reduce it to 2 suspects, and you use suspect detection system. In India it is used in forensic lab. Abroad it is used at airports or railway stations to understand if the person is carrying any narcotics or is an illegal immigrant, or is carrying some illegal substances or something.
But what about a person who generally sweats a lot? I mean, how can you determine reliably that he's lying?
So we have so first we take a baseline for the person, like
Right,
ye
right.
baseline है उसका, and then if it deviates from that baseline, then we say okay, then that is a this you can say divergence from the baseline. So that, and then we also have layered voice analysis, so that is analyzing your voice. So for example, if you are in a stress, or if you're emotional, or if you're lying, manipulating, you can use layered voice analysis. It's a software, and in India it is used again as a screening tool to reduce the number of suspects, but in abroad it is used for hostage situation, like if there's a kidnapper and you want to negotiate, then you can use layered voice analysis, and you can understand the emotional state of the person. So that is LVA. Then
could you explain it further, please?
So LVA is like, for example, like how we are talking right now. Okay, so
Right.
I'll keep my software, it's a software in the computer, I'll keep my software on. It will keep analyzing whatever you're speaking and give me real time feedback that okay, now you're manipulating your voice, now you're not sure what you're speaking, now you're using deception, now you're very anxious, now you're thinking too much. So that is how it will analyze your voice, and I can understand from my side that okay, now he's thinking too much, maybe I can stress a little bit here so that I'll get what I want. Or if you're becoming too emotional, I'll say okay, now I can talk about this more, so you'll get more emotional and maybe say something more. So that is how it works.
Oh,
Yeah. Then we have three major instruments that everybody must have heard, like lie detector, जो it's a very layman term, जिसको हम polygraph भी बोलते हैं. So polygraph is basically it measures your sweating, heartbeat, respiration, breathing. जैसे कि हम बहुत जो कभी झूठ बोलते हैं तो हमारा दिल धड़कने लगता है बहुत बहुत जोर से. So basically, these are some mechanisms which are involuntary, like we cannot control. So when we are in stress, when we lie, we are in stress. Like हम जब झूठ बोलते हैं तब जब stress में होता है, तो हमारे ये जो mechanism है body के वो fast हो जाते हैं. So this it measures in polygraph. So it has been used in Ajmal Kasab's case, or in any high profile case, polygraph is a must that is being used. Yeah. Then we have narco analysis. Narco analysis is something that you inject you inject sodium pentothal. It's a injection into the body of the person, and you make the person semi-conscious. So the person is not like conscious enough to think ki what I will lie. Okay, or not, he is not very conscious enough to make up stories. He's in semi-conscious state. That is, he will tell you whatever you ask. He will not make up any story, and he is, you can see, he's in like in a hypnotic trance mode. Yeah.
Right.
And
so it's like a truth serum.
And yeah, it's the other term is known as truth serum. Yes, correct. So like usko injection deke truth bulwane ka technique hai ye. And the last is brain profiling. That is like you've seen in all these machines, the person had to speak. But in brain profiling, the brain activation will give me the result. The person does not have to speak. So, for example, it will show me whether you have had an experience of participating in the crime. So, I'll give you an example. If there's a terrorist attack, and I have to differentiate between three kinds of people: one who has planted a bomb, one who has made the bomb, and one who has maybe led the whole operation. Okay, so because there are different punishments for each type of crime. Now, brain profiling will help me understand what is the participation of the person in the crime. So the brain activity will help me understand that, okay, he has participated in only planting the bomb. He doesn't know anything about the planning. He has only made the bomb. He has not planted the bomb. So the brain activity will show me different uh, crime participation of the person. So those
Right.
are the 5 instruments.
So, for example, if a person is lying, so his amygdala would fire up a lot.
No, so he's not lying over here. No, the person does not speak at all. So basically, we take up his. So, for example, I'll tell you. You tell me that before we tell the person to sit for the brain profiling, we ask the person, okay, you tell me your version of the story. Okay, he will tell me the version of the story. Then I will put it in a recording mode and I will let it play. Okay, the person just has to hear the recording and the brain will revise, recollect whatever he has done. If the brain does not lit up or does not get activated, that means that the person never participated in this activity.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So that is how it works. I hope that is a little clear.
Yeah. So, I would like to ask you, what is the amount of admissibility of a polygraph test in court?
Nowadays these instruments are being highly used because of lack of physical evidences and because criminals are getting more smarter, so they don't leave evidences, and we all know social media is playing a big role in this. And so these instruments are helping because here we are understanding the motive of the person, understanding something that the police will then be able to gather future evidence. So they are being used as corroborative or secondary evidences. That means they will help in supporting the previous evidence, or they will help in understanding what is the future evidence. So, for example, in Delhi, we had this Nithari case, okay, Nithari serial murder cases, where the person had sexually assaulted children, and then he was a necrophile. That means he used to eat the bodies of the child and put them as trophies. So then to get more evidences, he was put in polygraph and brain profiling to understand what is his motive or where did he hide the bodies. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. So, when you say that social media is a factor in covering up evidence, what does it mean?
I meant that like such, like where we are discussing in this podcast, okay, that these are the investigation techniques. So the criminal or this person is already watching such podcasts. They know what is DNA profiling. They know how the blood is analyzed, where not to leave the blood. It's all available on the internet. So then such kind of, like, it's very easier to now organize the crime in such a way that you will not be caught. So that
If
is
there
what.
is no evidence of a crime except for polygraph test and all these corroborative evidence, can a person be convicted?
The polygraph test will lead you to future evidence. So they will suppose the person has not committed a crime, has committed a crime and hid the weapon somewhere. Okay, the polygraph or brain profiling will ask a question: have you hid your weapon somewhere, or have you destroyed the weapon? That will lead the police to find that physical evidence, which then can be uh, admissible in the court.
Right. So this what was it? Sodium pentanol, right? So if it's such a
Sodium
reliable
pentothal, yes.
pentothal, sorry, if it's such a reliable measurement of a person's honesty, why isn't it more often used? I mean, in all cases.
Because so there are two reasons over here. That first reason why it is corroborative, I'll let you know that. So because these instruments violate human rights, we have Article 21 and 20 that speak of right to privacy and right self-incrimination. So that is because like, for example, when I'm injecting an injection into the body, I'm invading his body. Or when I'm measuring the blood pressure of the person, I'm invading his body. Or when I'm measuring brain activity, I'm invading his brain. So this is right to violating right to privacy. Even when the person has given me a consent, still I'm doing it. And secondly, uh, if you have said that I have not committed the murder, yet my body or my brain is testifying against me. Okay, so that is self-incrimination, which is not allowed in the criminal justice system. Like my body is giving evidences against me, so therefore it is considered as corroborative evidence and not as direct evidence or first evidence. And secondly, lack of awareness, I would say. Not all the police officers are aware of how these machines work, or how will they be useful to you in the criminal investigation. Therefore they are not as much in is use. But nowadays, due to media or due to high profile cases getting hyped up, we are like Arushi Talwar case, so we know what are the instruments that are being used. So yeah.
Right. Aside from interrogation of suspects, what else does a forensic psychologist do to help investigating officers?
Besides these, we also help in criminal profiling. So, for example, we have a lot of evidences on the crime scene, or we know what the evidences the police has considered. So, we look at the evidence and we try to build a profile of a criminal. Not the sketching part, but what I mean is what is the personality of the criminal. So, for example, if the person has committed a crime in a certain way, so I'll let you know. So if suppose we have a serial killer, okay, now we have a very famous serial killer like Ted Bundy. Okay, now Ted Bundy used to target only women. Okay, and then it was realized that those women used to look like his mother, because he used to hate his mother so much that he targeted only those women who used to look like his women. Or for example, we have the Stoneman murders. Okay, now it was the person has not been caught yet, but it is hypothesized that he killed only 9 people with a stone, and on the stone he used to put some red powder, sindoor that we say, and then do some puja. It was seen that it was because of a ritualistic phenomena. So he wanted to sacrifice 9 people, या बलि चढ़ाना 9 people का. So this is how we get a psychological profile of the person. So this is where forensic psychologists can be useful. And of course, we train the police officers in understanding how to deal with children, how to deal with women, how to deal with people having mental problems or behavioral issues. So we also train the police officers like that. So yeah, that is how we do it.
So like 9 लोगों की बलि चढ़ाना. Follow up for that question, I would like to ask, how can religion be used as an excuse for criminal behavior?
So I won't say, I mean, religion in India is very prevalent. Okay, and India is such a country where we have beliefs, we have superstitions, we have black magic, we have jinns, and we also have fairies. Okay, so everything is, and this is not pertaining to only one kind of section of the society. We have it everywhere. So we have it irrespective of educational level, irrespective of geography, or irrespective of any particular religion. Okay, so I'll give you one example. Like for example, in Andhra Pradesh, we had 2 doctors. Okay, and they thought that they will kill. They had 2 doctors, and they had 2 husband and wife, and they had 2 daughters. So they believed that if they killed those 2 daughters, the Kalyug will end and the Satyug will begin. Okay, so this is even if they were doctors and they were so professionals and scientific in their professions, but still they believed in religion, or you can say superstitions. So we can say that religion, they might not consider that it is a crime, but because of the erroneous thoughts, or because of the, you can say, irrational thoughts, or uh, ways that religion can make the person do a crime. So yeah, that is how religion can, it's never used as an excuse, but it is a way of doing a crime.
What is the role of DNA in forensic investigation?
So as a forensic psychologist, we don't use DNA, we don't consider, I mean, DNA is mostly used by forensic DNA experts. Now DNA right now is a very, because each person's DNA is very unique. Okay, so right now there is a bill in consideration that is making a DNA library. Okay, so directly if I know that the person's DNA is this, I would match it up with the library of DNAs that I have, and the suspect will be easily caught. So DNA being a very unique element, just like fingerprints or just like blood, okay, can be, is one of the most easiest way to catch a suspect.
Right. Okay. So can I ask you about the McNaughton rule?
Yeah.
What is
Hello,
it?
can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I thought my voice is not there. Okay. So
You're
I'll
audible.
tell you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you like this: the section 84 of IPC deals with the act of a person of unsound mind. Okay. So McNaughton rule has influenced this section. Basically, it deals with that if the person was not sane enough to do the crime, then should we consider him as a criminal or not? As simple as that. And this section very well differentiates between medical insanity and legal insanity. So medical insanity can be as simple as that if the person has had a psychiatric problem or a medical problem, like for example schizophrenia, or you can say like schizophrenia or anger issues or depression for a for a longer period of time. Okay, but legal insanity is not that. Legal insanity is understanding that whether that time, the time when the offense was committed, at that time what was the accused state of mind. Okay, so that point of time is very important. Even if even if he had, for example, even if he has a substance abuse problem, like he is an alcoholic or he has a substance abuse problem, was at that point of time, did he have was he drunk, or was he not drunk? If he was drunk, was he able to differentiate between the right and the wrong? Could he understand that what will happen after he committed the crime? Like for example, if he would have murdered somebody, would he know that I will be caught by the police? Okay, so that is very important. So for example, I'll tell you an
Wait 1 second.
example.
Yeah, it was a technical issue. Please continue.
Yes. So should I begin from the beginning or ऐसे
No,
कैसे
no.
करूं? अच्छा,
McNaughton
ठीक है.
rule we were talking
हाँ,
about.
yes, right. So I'll एक second pause कर दो video.
So would you explain the McNaughton rule?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, section 84 of IPC deals with the act of a person of unsound mind. Basically, McNaughton rule has inspired this section in our law, and it deals with understanding that if a person has an unsound mind, should we and he has committed a crime, should we consider him as a criminal or should we not consider him as a criminal? So basically, the act reads as: nothing is an offense which is done by a person who, at the time of doing it, by reason of unsoundedness of mind, is incapable of knowing the nature of the act, or that he's doing what is either wrong or contrary to law. So here we have two aspects, two concepts: legal insanity and medical insanity. Medical insanity is where a person for a longer period of time has been clinically diagnosed as having some mental health problems. So for example, depression or anxiety, schizophrenia, substance abuse problem. But legal insanity is that the time when the offense was committed is critical in determining the accused state of mind. So for example, even if he's an alcoholic or has substance abuse problem, if he has committed the murder and at that point of time he was not under the state of alcohol or under the influence of alcohol, then he will be considered as a criminal. But if he was under the influence of alcohol and he couldn't understand that what will be the events following the murder. Like he'll be questioned by the police, he'll be put in jail, then he will be given the advantage of not guilty by reason, or you can say not guilty by reason of insanity. That means it is known as an insanity plea to the court. When the person feels that he was not mentally fit during the commission of the crime, then he can go to the court and say insanity plea, and he can put an insanity plea towards the court. So this is what basically is McNaughton rule, or section 84 in IPC, where it deals with mental health problems, and if the person is committing a crime in that state, then what will be the future consequences.
Right. So is the test for determining whether a person was legally insane done by forensic psychologists?
Yes, a forensic psychologist does it now, but he needs to also have a clinical understanding of the person. So for example, there are many tests that we do to understand if the person has mental health problems or mental disorders, and this can be collaborated with other evidence, other information, like I can get information from his parents, from his teachers, from his religion people, or from his doctors, on understanding how, or his friends, office workers, peers, to understand how his behavior has been, to get a collated information on what his personality is and what his behavior is, or does he have any problem, or is he you can say pretending, or as the word that we use, malingering, is he malingering his symptoms, or is he pretending? So this is how, but a forensic psychologist needs to have a clinical experience also to understand or diagnose the problem.
Okay. Could you explain further concept of malingering?
Yes. So malingering is a legal term or a clinical word for understanding that if the person is pretending, or you can say fall intentionally producing any symptom, false symptoms. So for example, if the person does not have, like as simple as does not have stomach ache, but will say I have stomach ache and I don't want to go to the court today, this is malingering. Okay, suppose if the person is not depressed but is producing false psychological symptom by saying कि मुझे मन नहीं है कहीं पे, मुझे सुसाइड करने का मन है, या फिर मुझे कहीं पे रस नहीं लग रहा है काम करने के लिए, बेड से उठने का मन नहीं हो रहा है, so he is lying about his illness. So this is malingering. So for example, in the Nirbhaya case, there were the person that one of the convict actually went to the court and filed an insanity plea that I am suffering from mental illnesses, please dismiss my death penalty. But then it was found out that he was just malingering his symptoms. So this is what malingering is.
Right. So how does a forensic psychologist determine whether a suspect is malingering?
So in the same way as how we understand the psychology, so we never say that a person is, you can say, like for example, there is no yes or no, like he's completely healthy or completely not healthy, aisa nahi hota hai.
There's a spectrum.
Like so the person can be a little you can say completely healthy, but with certain symptoms of anxiety or certain symptoms of depression or something. So this is in clinical field, but in forensic psychologists there are, or in legal terms, we have only two words: either he's criminal or he's not criminal. Okay, so using this malingering techniques, we can help the prosecution or the lawyer to understand whether he's using this excuse of malingering, or whether he's using this mental illness as an excuse to escape from the you can say from the justice, from the trial, or from the court. So it's, we interview the family members, school, friends, police, witnesses. We look at his reports of insurance, of banks, to understand whether he has done the same kind of lying, or does he have this habit
Pattern.
of lying. Yeah,
Right.
pattern, exactly. Does he have this pattern, or is it genuine enough?
Right. Who the hell is Chitra Ramakrishna?
She is a former NSE chief. NSE is National Stock Exchange, and she was recently accused of committing a white collar crime. That is, she was accused of fraud. A very simple way of explaining this was that it was suspected that she has transferred a lot of funds to somebody. Now then it was understood that somebody, according to her confession, that somebody was some Himalayan yogi. Okay, and they did not even after questioning and interviewing and interrogation, she said that this Himalayan yogi does not have a physical presence, but is some kind of spiritual presence. And that Himalayan yogi did have a position in the NSC, unofficially, without any proper procedure. He was given a position and everything. So it was it was after, because even the IP addresses had failed, the cyber forensics basically, they had failed to understand where this IP address was leading, because there was no Himalayan yogi at all. So this is where all the controversy started, that where did she actually transfer the funds.
Right. So any tools used by forensic psychologists to investigate whether she was lying?
So recently I have heard, I've seen the news that forensic psychologists are questioning her and interviewing her to understand whether she has been hiding something, or if what I used the word is she maligneering. That she's maligneering that, okay, there is some yogi sitting there and she's maligneering the psychological symptoms, or is it actually genuinely that she did not understand who's this yogis, or somebody actually she was the victim of fraud? What was the case? So forensic psychologist was interviewing her, yet it was seen that she was very reserved and she did not give out any information. So probably in the next coming up days it would be seen that they might use some instruments like polygraph or brain profiling to understand and gather future evidences. It has been seen that yogi was not existent, but there was some person, government official, who's responsible for this, and he was the Himalayan yogi. But right now it is all in investigation procedures. Just slowly and steadily they might think of other investigation techniques as well.
Right. Is this a myth that most crimes are committed by mentally insane people?
Not really. It is you can say it's a myth actually, but we have a correlation in our mind. We have a relation that people who commit crime will have some mental problem or will have some psychological problem. Like suppose somebody is committing a crime, we'll say हाँ ये तो बहुत गुस्से वाला होगा ही, इसको अपने आप पे काबू नहीं है. We always have this thing in our mind that okay, this person always has to have some problem. So that is not true actually. Sometimes some crimes are done at the spur of the moment. Okay, कहीं किसी को गुस्सा आ गया, अचानक किसी का खून हो गया, ठीक है, तो there some things are done at the spur of the moment. Some people genuinely have some problem, but mental problems cannot be the cause of crime. They are a way of doing a crime. They can be the I won't say they're the reason, but they are one of the modes that lead to crime. But there are other factors, situational factors, that build up to the person that to do the crime.
If there is any aspiring student who wants to become a forensic psychologist, what tips can you give to them?
Be ready for crime and all kinds of experiences. You might have not thought about that, oh, aisa bhi ho sakta hai duniya mein, so be ready for that. It's quite amusing to see how human nature can be evil sometimes, but you will also be amazed to see how police and the lawyers, in spite of having so many loopholes, they're fighting against crime and helping people to get them justice. So I think that these are some and you will constantly question yourself that why am I living in this world with so much crime? But then if you are a forensic psychologist, you will also be determined to change the system or at least contribute something. So yeah, so with that passion, enter this field.
What are the degrees that a person needs to have?
So right now, MSc in forensic psychology, the person can also do a normal master's in psychology, like any master's in psychology, and then do a PhD in forensic psychology. So there is no licensing system yet in India, but in abroad there is a licensing system by different bodies. So yeah, that is it.
And what is the scope after doing forensic?
So as I said, as a forensic psychologist, you can work with the police, you can work with the victims, you can work with the courts or the lawyers, or you can work as researchers, you can work as professors, or you can work in schools and help them understand what is bullying and what is violence. You can also work with you can say in society, basically conducting awareness programs. So there's a spectrum of services where you can give your expertise.
Right. Thank you, Krupa. You have been very informative.
Thank you so much. Thank you. The questions are very interesting.
You made them.
Okay.
I'll pause the recording.
Yeah.